Hey everyone, Debbie here. Welcome back to Wednesday Stash, where I share ways to help you keep your food for longer. Today we're going to talk about drying herbs. Before we get to that, though, I wanted to check in on the sauerkraut, and I don't know if anyone else started any. It looks great. Um, I had said after a week, go ahead and lift this up so that you could see it a little bit more clearly. It's still under the weight. Um, I did find some little things that I was suspicious about, so I cleaned those out, and just made sure my weight is submerged under the brine, and it looks good. I tasted some, and it's still too young. I mean, it's starting to taste like sauerkraut, but it's still too young to me, for it to be good. But keep in mind, it's only been 1 week. So we're gonna keep up with the sauerkraut and see how it comes along. So I'm gonna put this over here. All right, so we're gonna talk about drying herbs. I went out, I have some herbs in my garden, and I have some mint, which I have the most of. I have more mint. If anyone grows mint, it. You don't have to do a lot to grow mint. It grows. I had different varieties. I had chocolate mint. I had, I think, orange mint, different kinds. But it's probably I probably put it in about 5 or 6 years ago. Now I can't differentiate. It's just mint. I go out and get the mint. I can recognize that. I have some lemon thyme also here, and smells wonderful. Dill, I don't have, my dill went to head. I mean, we'll go in the seed. So I don't have a lot of dill left. I used to have bunches of it, but not that much. I have something called pineapple sage, and that's growing really well right now. So I'm happy with the pineapple sage. I also have some chives over here, so I think you can see the chives. My basil is doing marvelous. Oh, if you like pesto, you need basil. So that's doing really good. My rosemary, this was all I was willing to cut off. My rosemary is still very, very small. Nice thing about rosemary, it will keep coming back. But for right now, I didn't want to sacrifice much more of it for this demonstration. I don't know if you use herbs for cooking. It's a wonderful addition to your cooking. Drying herbs, simple, very, very easy to do, and you have a few methods to do it. So you might like a nice cup of mint tea. You might want dill for fish, or there's bunches of different dishes that you can use dill in, thyme as well. So I'm going to show you how you can dry these things. Some things dry better. Some herbs dry better than others. You can dry all herbs, but some dry better. The mint dries really well. Okay, basil dries well. Your rosemary dries well. You might find things like cilantro. I don't have any cilantro, which is a type of parsley. But you might find cilantro, things like dill. These are better frozen. The flavor, sometimes during dehydration, the flavor, the oils are what gives it the flavor, and so many of the oils are lost. You don't have a really strong flavor to it. So, I would try, the way I would freeze this, just have some ice cube, get an ice cube tray, fill it half with water, put your dill on top of it, freeze it, and then fill it again, finish it. After it's frozen the first time, it'll hold on to that dill, and then you can you can fill the tray up, and it'll encapsulate the dill. And then you just have a bag of cubes, and you pop out the cubes the way that you want to use it. But some things dry better than others. Let's see. Yeah, your cilantro, your dill, they're better frozen. Now, one of the things that you want to do with your with drying, make sure that they're completely dry. If you need to rinse them gently. You don't want to destroy the herbs, the oils. You don't want to remove what's giving it flavor. So give it a gentle rinse and then let them dry. You want the herbs to be completely dry before you start dehydrating, else or you're going to cook them. You don't want to cook them. You're trying to dehydrate them. So first, make sure that you're working with really dry herbs. Now the first way I'm going to show you hang to dry. So you need a paper bag. So I found some paper bags that I'm going to reuse, and you need to cut slits in the bag. And the reason you're cutting slits because you want plenty of ventilation. You want these to you want the herbs to dry. So I'm going to cut slits at the sides. I'm going to fold it in half. Cut slits up the back. All right, so once you have plenty of air holes in that bag, you're going to tie the stem. So I don't have a lot. I mean, I would use a lot more herbs, but we're going to pretend we've got nice big bunches of rosemary, because rosemary is one of the herbs that dries really well, air drying, hanging to dry. Other herbs that work really well for your thyme will work well: sage, savory, rosemary, lamb's ear. Think about your thicker herbs. These are going to be your thinner leaf. Mint's a thinner leaf herb, and you can tell with the texture. This is going to your rosemary's a thicker leaf, and even with the sage, that's thicker than it's going to be with the mint. The thinner leaf ones have such a high moisture content, they might rot. With air drying this way, hang drying, they might, on the stem, they might rot before they're dry. You want them to dry fairly quickly. So what you're going to do is, like I said, we're going to pretend we have a bunch, and you have a little bit of twine, and you're just going to tie the end of the stem end, because you want the leaves to hang down. So you're not going to hang them stem down. You want to keep the oils there and just hang them upside down, and then you're going to tie them off into a bunch. And I should have made my string longer so that I would have something to tie to. But once you have your bunch tied, and you're going to insert that in the bag, and you're going to tie your bag off. And then, like I said, this should have been longer, and you can hang it to dry. Now, some of the places that you want to hang, you don't want to hang it close to your stove, because with all the cooking, the moisture that comes off the stove, all the odors that come off of the stove, you want to do this in a cool, dry location. So you're going to put it somewhere else somewhere else where it's going to have the opportunity to completely dry. Near your stove is not a good idea. Another reason, the reason that you're putting it in the bag, this keeps dust from settling on your herbs. It keeps your herbs clean. And another thing is, if, like with the rosemary, if you have needles dropping, the needles are going to just drop in the bag. It's going to collect for you. Or if you have herbs that have seeds and the seeds are dropping, they're just going to collect in the bag. So the bag is handy, and then this way, once it's completely, they're completely dry, and you remove them and you're ready to store, you can just pour the contents out. They're not on the floor. You don't have dusty herbs. Bag is just a nice way to do it. Another one, for your tender herbs, mint, your lemon balm, parsley, basil. Like I said, they might mold if they're not dried quickly, so that's where dehydrator. So if you're wondering what this big box is, it's just a dehydrator. I'm going to open the front so you can see the trays that are inside. Now, You might have one of the circular dehydrators. There's all different types of electric dehydrators, and this particular one works. It's my favorite. I love it. It works really well. So that's a really good way to dry herbs. And what you're going to do, you're going to put your herbs in a single layer on your tray. You can leave them on the stem, you can pull the leaves off. Usually I just leave them on the stem, and you're going to spread them in a single layer on your tray, and you're going to remove things like this. They're wilted, there's yellowing. I have some others also. Oh, with my when I go to dry my chives, I'm going to get rid of these bits. It's like straw at the end. There's yellowing. Anything you have bruising, buggy. If you have buggy herbs, you don't want to dehydrate those. So those are the ones that you're going to go ahead and pick out, and you just want sound, nice, herbs that are in good condition. That's what you want to put on the tray. So I'm going to put these in here, and follow the manufacturer's directions on using. And that might be too high, so I'm going to pull this one out. I'm going to put this one on that level. Okay, and then put it in crooked. Trying to do this from the side. There we go. Follow the manufacturer's directions. Herbs are dried on the lowest setting. So for this particular one, we're drying at 105 degrees, and they dry pretty quickly. Also, it's not a long drawn out process, but just follow the directions with the particular dehydrator that you have for drying your herbs. Now I have some that are dried, and let's see, what tray do I have? Oh, here we go. These are all dried, so once they're completely dried, if they're crispy, I don't know if you can hear that, but these are crisp. And I'm just going to pull them off of the stem, and you can use a jar to store your herbs in. And that's how you know these are completely crispy, crumbly. No, there's no moisture. And that's what you want. You want them where they'll just snap right off. And you want to have them in a container that will keep them dry. You want to block them from the air, oxygen, because if left out, they might start reabsorbing the moisture in the environment, and you don't want that. You want to keep them nice and crisp. The way they are now. So we're going to get the rest of these in here. All right, and you're just going to keep them, labeled, so you know what's in here. I know we put things in jars, and we think at the time when we put them in the jar, we'll remember what's in there, and then we're wondering, okay, what the world. And now for some things, especially with herbs, you should be able to smell it, but label is foolproof. Just label it and date it. And I'm going to get this out of the way. Okay. Now, there's other ways that you can dry herbs, and that would be in the microwave. I'm not going to demo microwaving the herbs because you have to keep an eye on it. It happens very, very quickly. So in that case, if you were microwaving herbs, you would put your herbs in a single layer that's the mint. I'm mixing my herbs up in a single layer between two paper towels. And what the paper towels are going to do, they're going to absorb the moisture. So you want to use a microwave with a wattage of 1,000 or more, and you're going to put them in, hit start, put them in on high, microwave for 1 minute, check them, and then go in 30 seconds. You know, you might, if you did the first 30 seconds and you're still checking, drop down to 15-second increments until these are completely dry, just like you saw the mint, where they're brittle, they're, you know, just there's no moisture at all, they will crumble, but you don't want to set them on fire. And that can easily keep an eye on the microwave. Like I said, start with a minute, then go to 30 seconds, and then 15 seconds until you get them completely dry. And then once they're completely dry, then again, find a container. It doesn't have to be a jar. You can use a food storage bag, but something that's going to block out all of the oil, all of the air. Another way that you can dry herbs would be, again, using your paper towels. You have your layer of paper towel, and then you do another single layer. And I'm spreading these out so I don't have leaves upon each other. And again, the paper towels are absorbing the moisture, and you can do this up to 5 layers, and you're just going to put these aside and let them air dry, and the paper towels absorb the moisture from the herbs. You might find that you need to change paper towels, and paper towels are kind of at a premium right now, so I don't know if you want to use this method. It's up to you, but that is another way that you can dry herbs, air drying. You know, and you just want something to keep removing that moisture, so you don't want to do this in a damp area. Now, sun drying and oven drying aren't recommended for herbs. They lose their flavor because of the higher temperature. They lose their flavor, their color. It's just it's too hot. The sun, and this is you want gentle drying methods when you're drying herbs. So sun and oven, they're just not recommended methods for drying your herbs. Let's see. Now, using your herbs. Once you have, okay, how much do I use? You might have a recipe. General rule of thumb is 1/3 of dried to whatever. If a recipe calls for fresh herbs, you only need 1/3 as much of dried. So if you have a recipe that says you need a tablespoon of fresh herbs, a teaspoon of dry herbs will work. You need less. Now, for some herbs, when you're home drying, they don't have some don't have the intense flavor that maybe if you purchase commercially, you know, if you purchase your herbs commercially. So you might find that you might need to use a little bit more. So experiment, see how the flavor goes. It might turn out that instead of using a teaspoon, you might have to use a little bit more, depending on what your recipe is. So that's it for drying herbs. Take some pictures if you're going to dry some herbs yourself, and share. And please join me next week on Wednesday Stash, and I'm going to show you how to make fruit leathers. We're still going to use the dehydrator, but this time we're going to make fruit leathers. So I'm glad you, I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to next week, Wednesday.